We're getting into UFC 270. It's the heavyweight title fight, always the most exciting fight in the world. Whether it's boxing, whether it's mixed martial arts, it's always the heavyweights. But the champion, Francis Ngannou, has kind of been a bit distracted because Tyson Fury goes, who would like to see me fight this beast, boxing rules, UFC gloves? He's talking about Francis Ngannou because we know Francis the Power. Francis goes, how about MMA rules with boxing gloves? I'll do you that favor. Even though I think he's ahead of himself. Tyson goes, you want to come in my world, calling me and Wilder out to a boxing match. What I can guarantee, you would be knocked out and also paid your highest purse to be so. So you have to think about what is offered to you. Dude's got to fight Ciryl Gane. He's got to fight Ciryl Gane in 2 weeks, Ryan. What is going on? Why is Francis Ngannou seeming so distracted going into what is only his first title defense?
Well, I think the first thing, DC, we have to realize and we have to allow people to understand about athletes is, and this is probably not the correct verb, you can't athlete all dang day. Right? You can't MMA fight. You can't UFC fight. You can't box. You can't play football 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. Like that's just not what you do. So whether it's Francis Ngannou playing video, go ahead.
But Ryan, now I understand, right? Because as the heavyweight champion of the world, you're thinking about Brock Lesnar and all these things that will come to you. But in the moment, should he not be like, forget the distraction, especially as we get to 0 hour, RC. 0 hour is upon us in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Less than 14 days. Is it time to say Tyson Fury is only there if I get through Ciryl? So I need to make sure that I get through Ciryl before I start to really give too much energy to these outside
No,
things.
I think it's not necessarily about energy when all it takes is this though, DC. Like we live in a different world. Francis Ngannou isn't going out and doing a promotional tour about his fight with Tyson Fury. He's sitting at his house after he's trained for Ciryl Gane, however many hours you elite level UFC fighters train, you heavyweight champions train, and then he's sitting on his phone playing around, setting up his next move. This is what combat sports has gotten to now. This is why you can have a Jake Paul. This is why Conor McGregor can cross over and fight Floyd Mayweather. And also when you see those things happen, if you're Francis Ngannou, if you're a dude that had to sleep at the gym, if you're a dude that had a Jerry curl and was broke, if you've gone through all these things and now you're looking at what can give me the most money, you're absolutely setting this up, especially when you hear things coming out, he got one fight left and we don't know if he wins, the fight probably rolls over, then we do a new contract. Like, ain't no love in the heart of the city when it comes to the UFC. So absolutely, he has to be setting up his next thing. Stop being this UFC purist. Oh my God, if you're focused on fighting the fight,
I'm trying to tell you that when I did it, right? You always look to the next thing.
Yeah.
But as it gets closer, I think you got to be locked in, especially when there are so many things built into what Francis is dealing with already.
Right.
That's Francis's last fight of his contract.
Yep.
Him and the UFC are verbally fighting in the public, right? He's got a dangerous fighter in front of him. The interim champion is Ciryl Gane. He's got his former coach who has intimate knowledge of who he is as a fighter in the corner of the other guy. There are so many factors at play already, not to mention it's his first title defense. And you know how much pressure comes with that, right, Ryan? You're not the champion until you defend the belt.
DC.
It's like that whole thing. There's a lot that comes with that, and Francis needs to lock in.
DC, how can you ask me that question? I know what the pressure is that comes with being the champion. I ain't never been no UFC champion, bro. I'm not finna let people punch me in my face for a living. I'm not that tough. No, I'm messing with you. I ain't that tough, dog.
RC, but think about this, though, RC. Like when y'all won the Super Bowl and y'all came back and y'all going in there with the target on your back every single week. You got a team that might have won one game, but ultimately when they play y'all get the best version. That's Francis now. And I just feel like there's a lot of built-in pressure already on this young man's shoulders that this other stuff can wait because it's not there if you don't win. And that's probably the most cruel part about mixed martial arts fighting and boxing, right? You can be on top of the world 1 minute, you go and you lose, and all of a sudden you're pretty much irrelevant to those big things that were on the
Right.
horizon.
DC, you mentioned getting down to the 0 hour and the fight being right ahead of him. Obviously fighting, to me, the toughest opponent in Francis Ngannou's entire career. Do you feel like these distractions can hurt him in the octagon? Or do you feel like Francis Ngannou is such a high-level striker that even with dealing with some of these outside things, whether it's the contract, the Tyson Fury talk, or anything else that he's dealing with, he's good enough to focus inside the octagon and beat Ciryl Gane?
You know, I think the matchup is so difficult anyways. I mean, I think Ciryl Gane presents a lot of unique challenges to Francis Ngannou. Now, we have said that before, and Francis has gone out there and just starts people. He knocks them out, the fight's over in no time, and it's done. But if this fight starts to go long, we saw Ciryl Gane fight masterfully against Derek Lewis, another guy who has tremendous power. So it's a difficult matchup to begin with. All the other things can't help. Now, I would never say that Francis Ngannou is not a professional. I love Francis. I think Francis is one of the nicest human beings on the planet while being one of the most devastating human beings on the entire planet.
Right.
But he needs to be 100% locked in, because all those distractions, man, when you're in the locker room or you're in the walk or you're getting ready to go fight, everything that you didn't do, every bit of energy that you put somewhere else, those voices are just in your head.
Right.
It's like, remember when you did this? It's like it's constantly trying to face and form doubt.
Yeah.
You're constantly trying to look for ways where you're not prepared. You know, I mean, it's with any high-level sport. From wrestling, when I was in the Olympic semifinals, I'm wrestling the Russian in RC. I'm so nervous because I cut too much weight. I'm like, is this the match that is going to start to show itself?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Where I know the guy's that good, but I didn't do everything right. Is this going to catch up to me? It's like that in fighting too. So when you start to ask yourself those questions, it all plays a part in how the fight goes and plays out.
DC, I know a lot of times familiarity can breed contempt. Also, sometimes it breeds comfort, right? It breeds confidence. And when we're looking at some of the things Francis Ngannou is doing that doesn't seem like he's focusing on the fight with Ciryl Gane, do you think it's in some way disrespectful to his opponent? Or like, because I kind of see it, okay, Francis Ngannou knows Ciryl Gane. Francis Ngannou has some information on him just from the experiences that they've shared that we don't. Maybe some of the things that we think Ciryl Gane is amazing at, Francis Ngannou doesn't see that, or he's seen behind the scenes and he knows that it's not viewed as it's perceived, or it's kind of a facade. Do you think Francis is disrespecting Ciryl Gane a little bit in this type of moment against a fighter in Ciryl Gane that's never lost inside the octagon and that has truly been really been dominant?
I honestly feel like the respect's there on both sides, RC. I feel like that comfort isn't as real because they didn't train together much. And they'll both admit it. They'll both admit that it was a short period of time. Francis said it was a stopover.
Right.
Francis said he was flying in to Africa, stopped over in Paris for a couple of days. They go, hey, we got this heavyweight that we need you to train with. He did it. Not in shape. So he's not putting much stock into that training and those sparring sessions. But when you're the guy, when you're the man, when you're the person that goes to the heavyweight championship fight out of that gym and the up-and-comer goes and spars you, he does well against you, he takes something from that sparring session.
Exactly.
Now, is that going to give him a false sense of where he is? Because this was an unprepared Francis Ngannou. This was Francis Ngannou on a bit of a promotional tour, not in training camp ready to fight. But I don't think either put much stock into it. I think Ciryl is one of the most cerebral guys that I've met. I've heard him talk. I've watched him fight. You don't go 10 fights into your career, become the champion of the world, and make no mistakes the way that he made no mistakes against Derek Lewis.
Right.
All the danger spots he kept himself out of, against Alexander Volkov, against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. All the dangerous spots, the positions that guys could cause him issues, he managed to stay away from completely. And that is what makes me believe that it's so much difficult. It's such a difficult fight for the champion Francis Ngannou as it is for Ciryl Gane.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult fight for both of these men. I also think it's one of the more exciting matchups we've had in the heavyweight division in a very long time. To have people who have at least some sort of familiarity with one another, the backstory about the gyms, and also the dominance of Francis Ngannou in recent history and Ciryl Gane's meteoric rise. I'm extremely excited to watch this play out and to see what wins. Is it Ciryl Gane's cerebral approach, athletic approach to fighting, or is it Francis Ngannou straight beast, master of disaster? I'm bringing the fight to you out the gate, and you're going to have to taste this power and see can you deal with this leather.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.